Hey everyone, in today's video what I'm going to do is take a look at the new Apple products that were announced last week. Firstly, just coming into the shop tab, this is on the Apple Store app, and what we'll do is I'll just quickly go through a few things. So from this page here, as you can see, I have actually placed an order for the Series 6 Apple Watch, and basically the main reason for that was primarily down to the color and the look. Previously I've always wanted to get an Apple Watch, but I always wanted one in stainless steel, just because of the color and the look that I thought would match better with the Pro phones, because I always buy the Pro phone and it's always got the stainless steel, but in the blue color it just looks so good, and especially with the braided loop, I think that's just a perfect combination. I mean, all the extra features that it comes with, I don't know whether I'll be using all of them or not. Essentially what it comes down to is basically it's a much better evolution in terms of coming from nothing to going to my first Apple Watch. So here's the blue one that I'll be going for. Hopefully the iPhone 12 when it comes out will also be available in the blue color as well. I was also looking at the SE for my wife, but basically she's not sold on it just yet. She's willing to wait until mine arrives and then she'll take a look at that and decide. So the Apple Watch Series 6 I've already placed an order for, unfortunately because of a payment mix-up, and this is something that I wanted to actually discuss with regards to the Apple Store app. So I've had this app installed and I've been buying devices from Apple for quite some time, basically going right back to these particular iPhone 6s Pluses. Since that point, every single iPhone that I've owned, so it was the 6S Pluses, the iPhone 7, I skipped the iPhone 8 and bought the 10, and then the next year I bought the 10s, and then last year I bought the 11 Pro Max. And for every single one of those I've bought them basically directly from Apple. And the disappointing thing is basically their app, for some reason, whenever you go to pay by Apple Pay, it creates a unique card number. And basically what I discovered was when I moved house, from that point onwards, every single time I've gone to actually purchase through the app, the original payment never goes through. So you can go through, you can add something to the cart, you go to buy it, and once you actually go to pay, it brings up it brings up my previous address, and it also brings up the wrong card number. So you basically, it doesn't give you any options to change it on that screen. So you purchase it, and then once, what happens is you'll then get a message saying the payment's not gone through, re-enter your card details. At that point you can re-enter your card details and everything will work fine. So because of that, obviously, as you can see, the delivery date for my particular order is the 28th. It has actually shipped. I got an email this morning saying it's actually shipped, and it's coming from the Netherlands, I believe. So obviously it looks like they're just shipping everything from a central depot in Europe for any orders in Europe. So unfortunately it's slightly delayed, but that's obviously a little annoyance that I have with the Apple Store app itself. Now when I did place the order for the Apple Watch, I was also very interested in the iPad Air, and the main reason is, as I've mentioned on quite a few of my videos, I am looking, well, I've been looking for quite a few years since the Pros came out with the all-screen display, to actually upgrade to the Pros, but I was never sold on the chips that were actually in them, because they were always probably 2 generations old, or at least 1 generation old. So obviously last year we had the A13, and rather than doing a X or a Z variant of those, we still had the A12X and the A12Z. And basically what I've been waiting for is for the iPad Pro to actually get A14 or A14X, A14Z, that kind of chipset inside of it. So obviously the new iPad Air comes with this particular chipset, but the issue comes once you actually go to set it up. So I do like the fact that it's got the different colors. I probably would have gone for the sky blue just to have something different, because I've always normally had the gray or the silver. But this is basically where the issue comes for me. So the storage is limited to 256, and I'd always get the Wi-Fi, never have a need to actually use mine on cellular. So 729, but obviously the problem is it's the storage that it actually comes with. Now previously, whenever I've needed to actually use the iPad, obviously I can use it for loads of other things, and the main reason for going for something this powerful would be basically for video editing, using LumaFusion. And the problem comes about whenever I'm making birthday videos or holiday videos, things like that. Obviously not many people are going on holiday right now, but hopefully we will return back to normal soon. And the issue comes when you're combining a lot of videos. The last time I did it, when I actually went on holiday, for example, I made a few videos, and you have to obviously store the data on the iPad. Now with the iPad, with it being USB-C and having the better connectivity, I'm not 100% sure whether I can literally just store all the data on an external SSD and then just basically use it that way, whether it has to be copied across to the iPad when you're actually using it. But essentially what I need is I need double the space of whatever I would output, and I have actually outputted files that are probably around 400 gig. So obviously for that I'd need at least 512, or ideally with the Pro version, what I would be looking at is basically the model that I would spec up. So it comes to basically £1,500 without any accessories. And realistically, because I mean I've still got my original iPad Air, and that's the very first one, so as you can see from that, from my devices here, so this is, I don't know whether it will give us the details. No, it doesn't actually, but that's 128 gig, and this was the very first iPad Air that actually came out. So in terms of value for money, this is something that obviously I would use for quite a few years, and it would benefit me more so in the bigger projects, and also just fine details and being able to create more. At the moment I always use my phone, and it does a good enough job because it's always got the fastest chip in it, so there is that benefit. So every year whenever I get the new phone, I've always got the fastest chip. But the downside is obviously the fact that you're working on a much smaller screen, so sometimes getting fine details, arranging stuff on the screen and things like that, it's harder to do. And a lot of times basically I won't actually spot it until I've exported it and I watch it back on a big screen. I have started doing that trick where you basically AirPlay to a TV and view it that way, but even still, it's still not full screen. You're still watching it through a window, and it's never full quality either. Basically, the main reason for not going for the Air, the new Air, would be obviously the capacity. It's also slightly I'm sure I read somewhere that originally it stated that it was only compatible with the Apple Pencil first generation. Obviously on the website itself it says second generation, so it must be working. It may, in fact, it may be the keyboard that is only compatible with the first gen. I'm not 100% sure. It's a good deal and everything, and then the other thing is obviously the sizing as well. So with the iPad, obviously if I'm getting it for editing and multimedia and things like that, then I would want the biggest size. It doesn't need to be too portable. I never really take my iPad around with me these days, because generally wherever I go, I've got access to certain devices that I can watch on a bigger screen if that's necessary. So this would literally just be a portable device, but I'm using it primarily at home. Now the other thing that does come up is obviously if I come back to the pricing on the iPad Pro, obviously £1,500, you're coming into MacBook Pro territory at that price as well. So it's only entry levels that you'd get, but that then enters into the realms of Final Cut Pro and having actual pro level apps that you can use for editing. Hopefully if everything, all those kind of apps and everything come to the iPad, then it won't be an issue. But LumaFusion, to be fair, does a really good job in terms of what it is. But from what I've seen, the functionality that people have with Final Cut Pro and other apps available on macOS, it's a case of you can do things in less steps. And basically on the iPad, whereas I'm having to create transitions and things like that, and effects and layouts, they're kind of things, motion tracking, something like that, for example, that is literally me having to do it step by step, frame by frame. Whereas on something like Final Cut Pro, I'm hoping similar. I used to use Adobe After Effects many years ago, and with that you could literally just hit a button and the computer would literally do all your tracking for you. You literally just set a point and then it creates all your keyframes essentially for you, so you don't have to go and manually set each frame and set all that tracking data manually. It does it all for you. Yes, it takes a while, but it's still faster than you sitting there and going through frame by frame, especially if it's a long clip. So yeah, that's the slight dilemma that I've had for quite a few years now with regards to the Pro. Obviously, since the very first one came out, I was wanting to go for that one, but I was never really happy with how the chipset was always a generation or two older than what should have been possible. So obviously we know that obviously with them having put the A14 in the Air, that they should already be working on something like the A14X or A14Z. And what I'd probably expect is probably around next March time, sometime like that, that the Pro versions would probably come out. So between now and then, I'm willing to wait. Obviously I'll have the iPhone coming anyway, so in the meantime I can obviously use the computing power of that for my needs. But yeah, that's the main reason why I've not actually gone for the iPad Air. But yeah, I am looking forward to the Series 6. It'll be my first Apple Watch. Funny thing is, when I was younger, I was really into my watches. And then as soon as I got my first smartphone, basically I never really needed a watch after that point, because back then watches only did two things. They either told you the time, or they had like a remote for your TV that would work intermittently. Infrared IR blasters, they were the definition of technology back then. And I had a touchscreen watch, and that was pretty much it. There wasn't really much other functionality that I used to get from watches back then, so it kind of just died out for me. Whereas now, obviously, it's basically a computer on your wrist, so I think it's time to actually at least try it out, and we'll see how it goes. But yeah, looking forward to that coming in a couple of weeks time now. Hopefully it comes a bit sooner, but if not, it'll be on the 28th, and I'll be making unboxing and review videos of that, so just look out for those on the channel.